The voice of sharing during ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. On our news today, we start off with Thailand. US supports Thailand's relationship with China. This is according to US Ambassador to Thailand. Today said that the United States supports Thailand's relationship with China, countering suggestions that Thailand has turned to Beijing amid a chill in Thai between Bangkok and Washington. In fact, Ambassador Glenn Davis' comments followed by those by the Thai junta last week that it was not distancing itself from the United States, despite blossoming military and political ties between Bangkok and Beijing since 2014 coup. Last week, Thailand's Air Force joined military exercises with China's Air Force at a military base northeast of Bangkok amid aim at increased mutual trust and friendship. In fact, China has said that it is supportive of Thailand's military rulers. Since the coup, Thailand's military generals have sought to counterbalance the country's ties with Washington and launch a charm offensive towards China. Recent deals between China and Thailand include an ambitious project to build rail links from southern China to Thailand and plans by the Thai Navy to buy submarines worth $1 billion from China. Added by Davis that he doesn't worry about Thailand's relationship with Beijing. He thinks that it is a good thing for Thailand to have a relationship with China. In fact, the US try to have a good relationship with China. On the other hand, news about Malaysia's AirAsia. Tony Fernandes touts AirAsia as ASEAN baby. CEO said ASEAN's biggest strength is in its people, both as a market and hub for human resource. The ASEAN region is where all the action is for low-budget carrier AirAsia, who flew across the region's skies over a decade ago and is eager to dwell deeper into its potential market. This is the ASEAN market and they have created an ASEAN company. This is according to Tony Fernandes of AirAsia and the 33rd richest man in Malaysia, who hit a jackpot when he launched the no-frills airline in the region more than a decade ago. News portal The Standard, reporting on Fernandes, who made these comments at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation CEO Summit in Manila, described him as having revolutionized the aviation industry in ASEAN, flying more than 150 routes to 89 destinations and with his AirAsia group employing 10,000 people. Praising the ASEAN market for AirAsia's success, he also said the region was a source of great human talent and a vast customer base, where its 600 million population was slightly more than Europeans combined. He added that we see enormous potential in the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia going forward, creating the ASEAN market. Fernandes also acknowledged that most of the innovative ideas, whether products or work processes at AirAsia, were suggested by his employees. He said he not only made a point to hear them out, or even when he did not necessarily agree with them, but tested their suggestions as well. He said to his great surprise, some of the ideas were indeed brilliant and necessary to be adopted in order to improve the brand. Calling it active listening, he said it was a sound strategy that had worked time and again to the airline's benefit, as it was his move to dress down so AirAsia staff felt more at ease about talking to him about ways to improve the airline. He added, "If we put people first, everyone wins." On another news about Cambodia, this is a news on human rights situation in Cambodia. ASEAN parliamentarians for human rights or member of parliament of ASEAN's call for the end of Cambodia end of the persecution of Cambodian opposition. The Cambodian government must immediately reinstate Cambodia National Rescue Party. President Sam Rainsy and Vice President Kem Sokha, to their positions in the National Assembly, dropped all charges against Rainsy and take measures to ensure the security and freedom of opposition MPs and activists. And the collective of regional lawmakers warned that recent events have contributed to deteriorating political climate in Cambodia, damaging prospects for a democratic future for the country. According to the chairperson and Malaysian Member of Parliament Charles Santiago, the situation is extremely concerning to parliamentarians from across Southeast Asia. The international community, including ASEAN, must make clear that these actions are unacceptable for the sake of Cambodia and the wider region. If collective pressure does not mount against Cambodian government, other regional leaders will feel empowered to act in a similarly hostile and arbitrary manner towards their critics. In fact, the Organization for the ASEAN Parliamentarians praised the European Parliament's approval of a resolution on November 26, urged the Cambodia government to end persecution of opposition parliamentarians, and urged all international actors to take concrete measures to support freedom of expression and renounce intimidation and violence. Another news about Thailand. Nestlé admits to forced labor in its seafood supply chain in Thailand. In a move praised by anti-slavery groups, global food giant reports abuse of migrant labor among its suppliers in Thai seafood industry after investigation. Impoverished migrant workers in Thailand are sold or lured by false promises and forced to catch and process fish that ends up in global food giant Nestlé's supply chains. The unusual disclosure comes from Geneva-based Nestlé itself, which in an act of self-policing announced the conclusions of its year-long internal investigation on Monday. The study found virtually all US and European companies buying seafood from Thailand are exposed to the same risks of abuse in their supply chains. Nestlé, among the biggest food companies in the world, launched the investigation in December 2014 after reports from news outlets and non-governmental organizations tied brutally and largely unregulated working conditions to their shrimp, prawns, and Purina brand pet foods. Laborers coming from Thailand are from poorer neighbors of Myanmar and Cambodia. Brokers illegally charge them fees to get jobs, trapping them into working on fishing vessels and at ports, mills, and seafood farms in Thailand to pay back more money than they can ever earn. Sometimes the net is too heavy and workers get pulled into the water and just disappear. When someone dies, he gets drowned into the water. One Burmese worker told the non-profit organization Verite in a report commissioned by Nestlé, "I have been working on the boat for 10 years. I have no savings. I'm barely surviving. Life is very difficult here." In fact, Nestlé added that it would post the reports online as well as detailed year-long solution strategy throughout 2016 as part of efforts to protect workers. It has promised to impose new requirements on all potential suppliers and train boat owners and captains about human rights, possibly with a demonstration vessel and rewards for altering their practices. It also plans to bring in outside auditors and assign a high-level Nestlé manager to make sure change is underway. Finally, a news from Singapore on a very interesting revolution happening there. Singapore is leading a water revolution. 50 years ago, Singapore had to ration water. Its smelly rivers were devoured of fish and choked with waste from shipbuilding, pig farms, and toilets that are emptied directly into streams. But it's a very different story today. The world's most densely populated country now collects rainwater from 2/3 of its land, recycles wastewater, and is even developing technology that mimics human kidneys to desalinate seawater. In about a lifetime, Singaporeans have definitely transformed Singapore. This is according to George Madhavan, an engineer who has worked for the National PUB Water Agency for 30 years, is now communication director. It is not rocket science, it's more political will. The key success factor is really government, the leadership to pull different agencies together to come up with a plan. As governments around the world wrestle with water crisis, from drought to floods, many are looking to the tiny ASEAN city-state of Singapore for solution. In Singapore, the PUB manages the entire water loop, Mahavan told Thomson Reuters Foundation. Its aims is to capture every drop of rain it can and recycle as much used water as possible. That means that ideally, Singaporeans don't sell water. They rent water. They take it back. They clear it. And like a laundry service, they multiply the supply of water many, many times. The water that you drink today is the same water that dinosaurs drank. They don't create or destroy waters. It just go around. So definitely, they are using engineering to shorten the loop. Anyway, that's all from our news reporting today. Thanks for listening, and always catch us on the go via your mobile by downloading our Duran ASEAN app. You can also listen to us live on your laptop or any other devices by going to duranasian.com, and you can always communicate with us and catch up on our latest social media updates via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's all from me. Thank you for listening.